Hey, gentlemen. Reviving Real News here with you. Welcome back. Uh, yeah, I probably am going to do this today. I can't really do much in my own personal situation on a Friday when considering what happened to me happened on a Wednesday evening, and I did about as much as I physically, humanly possible could do yesterday. And I know myself, guys. If I don't do this while this is in my head and I'm thinking of it and the stuff is there, I won't do it. This isn't the stuff you want to talk about or remember. So, and besides, tomorrow, I probably won't be in the mood to do it. It's my only real escape or whatever left in this realm. It goes on tomorrow, so I probably be lost in my own little whatever. And I know most people don't enjoy these things anymore, and I don't blame you guys. I'm right behind you. Like this is already on the way out the door. I know that, and I'm only holding on to it and everything for my own personal stuff because of my family, my inheritance and my upbringing and everything. I'm sticking with it for those things and the sentimental things, man, the good. It's probably the only really positive memories I have of my father and some traditions and things. So I'm aware that you guys I don't like these things anymore, and like I'm telling you, I'm literally right behind you. I probably got one foot out the door already. I see what it is, and I know what's coming to it. They've enabled the women and the single mothers to literally attack these kids' future finances and determine their athletic and academic futures. It's called NIL, name, image, and likeness, gentlemen. I encourage any of you who have teenage children, men or women, boys or girls, to please look into that and keep the stupid mother away from your student athletes. Do not allow the stupid mother to ruin your student athlete's future. Don't. Look up name, image, and likeness and look at what it's done. Look at what it's done within a calendar year to teenage men and women. And look what it's done to college student athletes. And then see who's controlling the whole situation. Beta stupid men dangling the carrot in front of the broke, narcissistic, egotistical. You know where I'm going with this, guys. That's not the point of my video, but you guys need to really be aware. There's a lot more going on with the attack on men and the attack on children than all these personalities, persona non grata on these social platforms are telling you. The attacks on the men and the attacks on the children and the power these stupid Jezebel succubus have ain't no joke. I encourage you, I'm not kidding you. If you got any children in your family that are teenagers that have a functioning brain or any kind of God-given athletic ability, you better look into name, image, and likeness, and then we all know who has custody of the children in the country that I reside in. Rant over. But yeah, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this today while it's all in my head. And in case tomorrow I don't want to do whatever. But this stuff is bad. This is the dangerous stuff. This is the bad stuff. This is where everything comes. And I told you in the last video that was pretty much the downfall for me. Getting laid off the job I had for about a decade. The job that was there before the child support, the job that was there during and after the child support. Fellas, I've been at that job for so long and everything, and I invested so much into it and took to it so much and so well. I didn't have any other networking, any other connections, no nothing. I didn't know any other industries, nonsense. I didn't know anything. And at that point in my life, of course, I looked down upon flipping a burger and other nonsense. I was operating six-figure pieces of equipment, or, the upper $80,000, $90,000 part of it. But anyways, that's besides the point. I was going to get into some of the nitty gritty or the in between details, but I suppose that's irrelevant to the overall story or the message or the point of this. But I'm gonna call this chapter. Call this the billboard, man. I did lose my job at the country club, the golf course. I did. I was laid off. My boss retired to enjoy his 2 daughters and his grandchildren. Guy put in, probably 40, 50, 60 years at that place. At least 20 something at that country club alone. And I know him and Bill worked at the other, at a city one, because certain cities have their own courses, and those are actually city jobs. Whole different kind of pay, benefit, kind of like working for the water department or the street department, So the guy been doing this stuff for way, way more than half his life. He was done. That just put that changes everything and ruins everything. Like, it is what it is, fellas. We all know what it's like to lose a job or not have a job. We all know that. But it gets bad, fellas. This is also the part of my life and my story. The women thing goes pretty much it for me. There might be 1 or 2 more females that pop up in my life after this point in my story and in my existence, and that's it. The woman I was cohabitating with destroyed every single opportunity I had. I had left her to go better my life and get away from this and try to salvage some kind of finances or opportunity or shelter. And she ruined everything. She found would weasel her way back. But the long story of that, dude, it was rough. It was very, very bad. And I first got homeless with her, because and it was bad. We'll probably talk at a future date and point about the whole homeless thing and that, but I don't want to get into that at this specific moment. I want to get into the whole child support and the court and the criminal thing. But the homeless stuff was real, man. Like, that was real. It happened. No, the first time it happened with me, it was only a couple nights. And that's the truth. Then got another place where somebody helped me for a little bit. That got ruined. And other situations pop up that don't work out. But the shelters, guys, this is exactly how I found out about any and everything that goes on now that I know in my life. Is the first and second times I was on the streets. It was dangerous. It's hard. And the first time it ever happened, I wasn't in a major metropolis, a city, or anything like that. I was just in a whatever, pretty much rural, laid back community, 15, 20,000 people. Probably not even that much. But the homeless stuff is terrible, man. That place only did stuff for like a month, 2 months or 3 months, and they kick you out regardless. Didn't matter if you just didn't matter. But I was in a shelter, and they only kept this was a co-ed shelter. I had ditched the lady I was cohabitating with, and that was in my life. I had ditched her, and I don't care. She had no idea that I had found shelters. She had no idea I had found one for myself, and then let alone she had no clue I had found a separate one for women and kids on a complete opposite part of this town. And make no mistake, gentlemen, that was it. I dropped her off in the dark, and I literally told the driver, close the trunk, do whatever. I got nothing. I'm like, take me to where I gotta go before they don't do intakes anymore, and I'm sleeping out in 12 degrees, because this was like December, I think, November, December. And I was like, look, I don't care. I'm like, I need to be there. I've spoken to them on the phone. She's only holding another 40 minutes, and then she's not going to do any more until tomorrow. So yeah, I did it. I ditched this stupid chick. I ditched her, left her there, and that was that. I didn't care, and I still don't care to this day. I still have no remorse for doing that stuff. I feel bad for the kids involved and everything in between. But like my mother said, you're good to nobody, your kids, or anything, or at all, and in between if you can't take care of yourself and do for yourself. You know, the first and foremost important thing I needed to do was get rid of the dead weight and the baggage I was carrying. That was that stupid female. So gone, instantly gone. She's out of my life, fellas. That you're never going to hear about her unless I mention that she tried to message or find me years later and ask me, did you ever blah, blah, blah? Yeah, but anyways, I got rid of her, and I was in a shelter for the allotted time, and then they don't care. They just put you out. You're gone. You're done. Back on the streets, don't matter. It doesn't matter at all. They can do it. So I had obviously been around people, and I had, started to talk or, whatever with people and other people that weren't homeless. I did know somebody that had an apartment. They weren't the greatest people or the most cleanest or the most soberest people, but I didn't want to be. It's the middle of winter, man. And the state I live in, the real meat and bones of winter was coming. So yeah, I did. I took their offer, and it didn't last too long. So fast forward a few months later, me being me, stupid, egotistical, knowing my status or my whatever in the real world. Of course, I had biological and whatever urges or this, that. And one Sunday afternoon, guys, there was this chick, man. Probably one of the best looking chicks in the area. All the guys would always want to whatever. I'd had enough. I had enough of the homelessness. I'd had enough of my appearance. I had enough of other men thinking they were whatever. Something just, I don't know, got into me, and I literally probably spent the next 5 hours literally completely making over my appearance and everything. Long story of that is, this chick is outside, she's smoking a cigarette on a bench. All kinds of these dudes are trying to talk to her, smoke with her, take her somewhere, everything. I mean, it's just nuts. I had enough. I started moving these mother freakers out of my way and started whatever, and I'm all on this power trip. I say like 3 or 4 words to her. That chick got up and just straight followed me. That was it. Long story of that was, this chick had connections in this town and everything. We got real close. So you could say I was using her, but I wasn't using her because I didn't know she had these connections and everything. One of her family members had some friends in that city that needed people to help them with their own personal stuff. So it was a living situation for me, basically. And I was still getting to have a little bit of fun too. Until I found out that was a complete disaster, gentlemen. When I tell you that one, holy guacamole. But this is how we get to the billboard, okay? I should have been upfront and honest with you. The last year and a half, I'm in the county where my child support's ordered, okay? Some of it, I'm actually in the city that, has the jail, the courts, the offices, agencies, everything. Okay, I don't go all over the county, obviously. I don't stare at every stupid thing all over this place, man. So I'm oblivious to these 2 or 3 billboards that they pay for and they run. Like, I'm oblivious to this, you know what I mean? Like, I heard, we all heard urban legends and urban tales, but none of us have ever seen it. We all knew about the magazine that all the stores and, we have drive-thrus where I live. Like, you can go and never get out of your car and they'll serve you alcohol, tobacco, whatever. You just roll your window down, ice cold beer, you know what I mean? Right there. You never get out of your car, nothing. But, like, we had these magazines here where they got, like, the wanted or the whatever stuff. People got warrants or people doing, criminal stuff. We all knew about this. But, I told you, I found a place to stay. As long as I agreed to do what I needed to do to help them and go out and be able to get food when they asked me to, I was chill. And I had made friends with a couple of the neighbors and one of their daughter's boyfriends. He was a little younger than me. He was younger than me, but he was still an adult, which is important. We're chilling one day. We'd just gotten up, everybody's different when they wake up. And we're getting ready to, do something, some adult stuff. Not drugs. And we're getting, and I remember Grand Theft Auto is on the Xbox. Niko Bellic and I remember that was one of my favorite games ever. That Grand Theft. Me and my son, man, I had all the maps for it. I had all the music. My kid knew how to go into the garage and do whatever to the cars. I loved that game. I think it was Grand Theft Auto 4, man. Niko Bellic. Great soundtrack, man. Probably the best soundtrack to Grand Theft Auto I remember, man. Great music on that one. It had the soundtrack from Silence of the Lambs in it. Yeah, man, I'll never forget that Grand Theft Auto. But that's what was going on, man. And it's winter. It's cold and everything. And we went and opened the door to, just get some air real quick and everything and get some sunlight. We go back to sit down and they turn on a little music. And we hear this weird noises and the dogs start barking and everything. But it's not in the front. It's in the back, like where the alleys are, where they pick up the trash and everything. But we still can't see anything. A few minutes later, there's this boom, 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 boom on the wooden door. And we go to look out the windows, and they got all the windows covered. You can't see nothing. I'm like, man, what the... And he's freaking out because he's younger than I am. He's never been in trouble. He's never had any altercations with these people, except for whatever when he was a teenager. When your parents can still get you out of trouble. He goes to open the door, not knowing any better. And it is the boys in blue. No joke. They knew what they were doing, too. See, fellas, somebody in that neighborhood, or one of the neighbors, or some chick that I wasn't giving attention to, was aware that I was on a billboard. And I wasn't aware of this at all. And they had called and turned me in. Like the address, the people that I was staying with, these people had all kinds of detail on me. And 2 city cops. No joke, man. 2 cars. No joke, fellas. I had no clue. I had no idea at all that anything was going on against me. I had no clue about any kind of court warrants. I had no clue about nonsense. I had no clue of anything. And I am ready to drop urine down my leg. When this dude is like, are you so-and-so? And he didn't even finish asking me. He just pulls out this thing to verify you look like whatever. And here, the iron bracelets, boom, everything. They start reading the supposed charges or telling you what's what and what's going on. But he was being civil. He was like, let me empty my pockets and give whatever contraband over to the guy. He was giving dude information of where I was going and what was going to probably happen and what they could or couldn't do. So it wasn't like, I ain't sticking up for the boys in blue, but it's not like they were acting how they act today towards us. So I'm just going to give credit where it's due. But this was, bizarre. And then there's the cops doing what he's doing, and he's giving information to the people I'm staying with, and they're talking back and forth. He takes the stuff off the back from behind me and puts it in the front real loose and comfortable. And he lights me up a smoke, lets me sit in the back of the car. That right there, fellas, that's the beginning. That's it. This is where everything changes, man, and it gets real nitty-gritty scary, man. It is unreal. You're in the intake. You're being processed. It is unbelievable. I never seen no circus show like this in my life. Because I don't remember the stuff that happened when I was in high school, man. I pretty much permanently have a perma block on those things. But I'm sitting here, this stuff is unreal. And this cop is telling me as I'm in the car. And they even said it again when I'm in intake. He was like, well, do you want to know what's going on or how this even went down? He's like, it wasn't like, you're some known criminal or you're some, wanted felon or you're any of these kind of things. He was like, you know, you're on a billboard. I said, what? Like, what are you talking about, man? I'm not a criminal. Like, I don't. I'm like, you just ran my stuff. And he just starts laughing, and he's like, well, you know what the sheriff in this county does and what these agencies do for this? I said, wait a minute, for child support? And he said, yeah. And I said, but what about people who touch kids or women, or what about people that put poison to kids and you know, secondhand off people because they OD? He was like, they don't do that do that stuff at all. He was like, let me put these men on there. I said, so wait a minute. And that cop was like, I don't even want to hear it. He was like, because everything you're going to tell me, I'm going to agree with you. I'm not joking, fellas, and I probably am doxing myself. If anybody's that smart, they can probably look up what counties in America put men on billboards for this. I was flabbergasted, Jim. That's exactly how it happened. I was on a billboard, was unaware, along with other men, and somebody that I was not giving attention to, or somebody that had it out for me, figured out where I was, or they already was probably in my life, to be honest, and straight turned me, flat out turned me in, bro. And the cops told me the whole truth, except they would not tell me who picked the phone up. I mean, they were giving me hints about the neighborhood, the color of the everything. He's like, well, I can point you in this, and I'm just like, man, just write it down or something, you know? But fellas, I'm almost smiling at looking at these men, thinking back on this, because it is goofy, silly how this is. But it's unbearable. You get in the intake, you got to go through the whole. Yeah, you're in jail now. You're in jail. You're waiting for your bond. You're waiting because you have to go in front of a judge within a certain time. But before you get to that, you're in jail, and then like the next day or the day after that is when all the weird stuff happens, like before the bond. You got to go through these weird mental health screenings. These people come talk to you, and all it boils down to is, fellas, if you're gonna get in trouble or whatever, little trick, shut your mouth. Even if you are feeling something, and if you know you're whatever, don't say a word. You don't tell none of those people at all anything. You don't say nothing, because what they're gonna do, they're gonna put you in the loony bin suit. They're gonna put you in that loony bin suit, and then put you in the cell that don't have the TV, or that doesn't have anything but the cold floor. You don't even have you don't even get the plastic mats. And then you get in these crazy suits, no underwear, no nothing. Like, you're walking around basically in a dress. It looks like a dress, but it's real heavy, like it has some kind of metal on it. It's weird, and it's so you can't do nothing to yourself. But yeah, guys, I didn't know any better. I didn't know any of this stuff, man. And I look at this lady who's asking me questions, and I'm like, are you crazy? I'm like, I'm in this place with a whole bunch of this and this and this. And I obviously said things or answered things the way I shouldn't have answered them. Man, within 20 minutes of me talking to that woman, gentlemen, the guards call me down with this doctor and somebody else, and they take me right back up to the intake, and they straight make me strip down, and they come with that suit, and I was in shock and awe. I had to spend the next 40 some hours like that until my arraignment, and they dress you back out in normal jail attire for that. But I go to my arraignment, and lo and behold, a female showed up to my freaking rescue. And I'm talking, this woman actually, the way the courtroom doors open, I remember letting out of whatever, because the clerk of courts and this woman who was involved in the child support agency laughed at me by how my outburst was. She walked in like gangbusters. The judge walks in. It's just, I'm in there by myself. This was obviously done to pretty much get me out of jail, more or less. I could tell by how empty the courtroom was and how little people, and how the tone of voice was, that it wasn't whatever. And I also don't think they expected anyone to show up on my behalf. But she's in there and everything. The judge walks in, and you know how the courtroom proceedings start. You gotta, you know, rise and this and that. Well, you know, that goes on, and he starts talking and reading off the charges and everything to me, and you know, starts, you know, saying, well, what do you recommend for the bond, or what do we recommend, or what do we do? And start, you know, they ask where you live, they ask all these questions. And she stands up and she says, can I speak? And Your Honor, and he asked me, he's like, well, who is this in relation to you? And before I can even start talking, she's like gangbuster. She's saying whatever she's saying. She's got this judge all. They're talking back and forth, and he kind of takes his glasses off, and he's like, well, I put this all on you. You're responsible. And he was like, I'm going to let you go. He's like, I'm going to give you an OR bond. And he's like, these people are going to talk to you and give you paperwork. And he's like, you're going to be set up with pretrial services, and they're going to be monitored. But I didn't get no bracelet. I had to report to adult probation to do my pretrial, which means, yeah, gentlemen, it means drug testing, everything. I'm just lucky they didn't make me pay for that shit. Oops, I cussed, sorry. Forgive me, YouTube. It's hilarious, man. So basically, you guys are starting to get the idea of what's going to happen to me here. I get released on my OR bond, and they know where I'm living, who I'm living. They know everything, so I have to report to do all this stuff. I have to go. You got to talk to mental health. You got to do every single thing of it, fellas. It is, yeah, man. It ain't, sheesh. But back then, fellas, at least in my county, and I didn't know this obviously until I, you know, go through my sentencing, but like they have like diversion programs or these fatherhood things or these just whatever excuses they come up with. It's all a money grab. It's all money laundering schemes. They're diversion programs to get you out of the system or the jail, but it really keeps you in it and it brings you back in on double the money. Is more or less what it is. So the long story short on this one, I'm doing all of what I'm supposed to do, going through what I got to do, but I still have to face my sentencing. And the parole people, the probation and everything, they're all involved in this, and they all talk to the judges and the courts, and they all get a say-so and an input. So I kind of they're starting to get an inkling the closer it got to my court date of what the probation and parole or whoever was going to say and what the judge was going to do. And it was becoming more and more clear that I wasn't going to be facing any time. I was going to be put on papers and put in stupid programs, and basically it was going to try to hang me. That's what that is. They put you in those situations, gentlemen, so you can hang yourself. Because any kind of monitoring, supervision, and all that is more or less, it really is. It's like putting the electric shock on the animal, because you get some sick, torturous pleasure out of watching that animal go shock itself 100 times until it figures out it can't do it. Can't escape, can't do anything. But, yeah, I don't like others. I don't like a lot of things. But I also wasn't about to let my thoughts drive me insane, and everything else that was happening to me drive me insane. So I had an old near and dear friend, Mary Jane, you know. Her and I go way back. And when this started, I had these things in my system, and they have your levels and charts and everything. They were fully aware, and I was transparent of it. They didn't really seem to make a big issue. They were more or less, we don't want to find it where you're sleeping, and we don't want to find it with the people you're living with, and we don't want you to smell like it, and your levels better not go above what this initial result was. So in my young whatever mind, I'm thinking, hey, if I only do this at this times and everything, it's not going to go above it, but it's also going to slowly go down. Well, fellas, let's go to my sentencing, man, and this judge is telling me everything, right? Everything sounds wonderful, as far as I'm not going to have to go to prison, no jail, all this nonsense. And he's, telling me what he's like, this is this. You're going to go on this many years of probation. You're going to be going on this, this, and this. But it's also felonies, fellas. So it's pretty serious for me. This felony charges, felony non-support. So I have prison time over my head, basically, guys. I did have prison time over my head. But at that specific sentencing moment and what was going on, everything was suspended. As long as I, did these stupid things and agreed to be a dog on a leash, a pony at a trick show, and all this nonsense. But I did not know that the lady that was doing my stuff and that judge were in constant cahoodles. And he's talking to me and saying everything. And then the last thing he does is take his glasses off and pulls up this piece of paper. And he says, Mr. So-and-so. He was like, so I understand that you've been cooperating. You've been doing everything. He said, but this right here disappoints me. And this right here lets me think bad things. And I'm like, well, what paper is this? What's going on? Bruh, fellas, that judge was so mad that I was talking to Mary Jane once or twice here and there, or having a little rendezvous on a Thursday or Friday evening to take the edge off. Hey, man, it was almost mandatory, but I ended up getting like a couple days taken away, but he straight put me for 30-some days for the drug test. He did. Yep, that's a true story, guys. Yep, I got 30 days for that. So that was nothing. 30 days was nothing, man. I did that, piece of cake. No worries. It is what it is. Get released. And that is the Billboard chapter, basically, fellas. That is exactly how I got into the system. And I was on probation. I was. And I didn't mess around with the Mary Jane. And I played the stupid. I had to go to services. I had to talk to doctors. I had to play all the games, fellas. So I'm doing this, but I'm free. I'm cooperating. I'm doing whatever. I could still drink beer. I could still go and do things. Well, fellas, forgive me for this, because this is kind of emotional, and this is hard to be open with strangers about. As I'm going through all of this and everything, guys, and I got to talk to these people and cooperate. I have not had any interactions, conversations, sightings, thoughts about my bloodline at all, going on over a decade. I vaguely remember the last time before that instance of my sister or my mother or my aunts, my godparents, anything. As I told you previously, this is winter time, and it's going from winter to spring. So we'll say February, March-ish. And we're outside in the back of the property in front of the garage, and we had a fire pit. And the weather was probably in the upper 40s, lower 50s, and we had a nice little fire going. We're all out there, just outside to get air, enjoy the sun, And I still, to this day, have never been told how this happened and how the information was exchanged and how these people knew where I was and knew what numbers to call or anything at all. But we're outside, and if all the men are, they're indulging, doing what they're doing, I can't. I'm talking to, I forget who I was conversating with, but somebody comes out of the back door by the kitchen, starts yelling my name. I get up out of my chair and I'm like, well, what? Like, you got a phone call. I said, well, what do you mean a phone call? It's like, you might want to go ask who they're looking for specifically. They're like, it's a woman, and this woman sounds really, really whatever. I said, what? Well, I didn't want these people getting involved in a phone whatever thing, so I get the phone. I said, first and foremost, this is not my house, my property, my phone. Who are you, and how did you get this information, and who exactly are you asking for? Like, I want to hear a full name. A full name. Because not many individuals on this planet know my full name. I don't really use my full name because my own personal preferences. When this lady on the phone proceeded to say my full name, it was like a ghost come out of some closet. It was trying to stalk me. The chills, the sweats, the fears, my memories, my nightmares, every part of my being that I hated, want to erase, everything was right there on the other end of that phone. Somebody that wants me dead to this day. I don't get along with this person, don't like this person, whatever. This person could fix my situation with the snap of her fingers right now. And this individual chose to go out of her way to have me taken away. But this individual, because of her own narcissism and whatever else, felt that it was upon her to be the savior and go looking for her brother, to tell her brother what was going on. So after I figure out who's on this phone, and the shock and the awe and the nightmare hits me, and I snap out of it. I was civil, pleasant, everything, and she said, "Well, can you go private, or can you sit down, or can you get away from people so you can be truthful and react?" And I'm like, "Okay, this isn't going. I don't want to hear this. What the, And I get to a private, where I could be a little verbal or loud if I had to, and she told me to please sit down. Obviously, this is my sister, okay, guys? So this woman does know my childhood, everything, all my fears, mom, dad, you name it. My sister tells me my dad's dying. And I have my own whatever towards my dad and everything in between. But at that moment, still, my dad was the most strongest, biggest, tallest, meanest, nastiest person, the best athlete, best baseball player, football player, basketball, all these things that I'd ever seen in my life. Like, this man was like this man put nightmares in me. But when she said what she said, I instantly, guys, everything changed. Like, that was some stuff, man, when she said my dad was dying. And then when she got the courage to tell me what it was, oh, Lord, fellas. So not only did I get sentenced for my child support with prison years over me, I get demons from my past and my childhood front and center to tell me that my father's dying. Not only do I have to endure this child support, this probation, and this whole, you guys know, I'm trying not to use bad words, politically correct for Miss YouTube. It hit me from everything, every single aspect. And my sister's like, so-and-so wants to talk to you. Here's the number. When you get the courage and you can speak clearly and coherently, call. They're not going to bring up our issues. They're not going to bring up the issues between you and her. Because it was my godmother, okay? I'm not going to lie. It's my godmother. Yes, I love that woman, but I have my own whatever towards her. But I do love her. She is my godmother. She didn't do anything wrong to me per se, but that's a different conversation for a different time. But guys, this is, man, again, I don't know how I've done and made it through what I've made it through. I don't. But so this is happening. And obviously, guys, I have to cooperate with the legal system. I have to communicate and talk. My dad is, okay, guys, where I was born and raised, my dad, for whatever his own choices and reasons, never left that decaying, dying small town. I respect that man forever because he grew up there, sports there, his mom and dad are buried there. I understand that and I respect him for that, but he should have tried to save his life and get out to a better situation. But I do, Dad, from the bottom of my heart, I know why you did what you did by staying there. I do. So I had to be truthful with these people, man, and I had to tell everything. I had to eventually tell my probation officer about my dad. But what I was trying to get to is where I live in my state, A lot of the country where I live in calls things a hospice, okay? But in my area, my general area of my state, hospice has a different meaning than what you guys consider a hospice. Okay, my father had cancer, guys. I really don't want to get into what kind of cancer, but he had cancer. No, he didn't have no testicular cancer that I was aware of, anything like that. But my dad had cancer. He was, stage 4 is terminal cancer, meaning there's, as far as what they tell us publicly, there is no cure. It's irreversible. It's a death penalty. All they could do was control the comfort of living and, things like that. Give you the best and the most strongest narcotics for the pain and these things, but they can't do it. They can't cure it, or they can't whatever to where you guys, I don't want, this is hard to say these things. Hard. Very hard, man. But, I have to tell the probation and everything what's going on. I have to get permission to leave county to go visit him in the, we call it a manor, okay? We didn't call it a hospice. We call it a manor. And my dad was in the city, in the county that I was born and raised in. So I had to get permission to be with my godparents, with my sister, which was pointless because my sister was non-existent in all of this. Non-existent at all. And I had to get permission to be able to leave and go visit and do all of this stuff. Yeah. Terrible, guys. And I'm wrapping this up. I'm wrapping this up. Here's the gist of this end of my story with this chapter. It gets worse from my dad and gets worse and worse. But, I'm seeing him, and it's pretty crazy. I saw my dad after all these years. It's emotional. And I also got to see some of my family that I didn't see since I was a kid, man. So this was some stuff I was going through. People from all across the country were flying to my state because their brother, their brother was dying. Eventually, guys, my dad did pass. Okay? I took it whatever way, but in this situation, I used it to my advantage. I was speaking to some people in my family, and everybody was agreeing that I'd been through enough. I needed relocation. I needed out. I needed away from the urban environment, the urban culture. I needed away from the memories. I needed it away from the courts. I needed away from this at all. And I didn't even do this illegally. Gentlemen, I remember speaking to Louis, having full-blown permission, as long as I was calling and reporting and would turn in whatever he would turn. I had permission to leave. That guy wasn't even going to transfer my stuff. He was just going to do it over the phone, and as long as I kept my record clean and did what I needed to do, he would try to make sure I had no court appearances, no nothing, so I could leave and move somewhere to better my mental health and my life. So I did. I agreed to let my sibling, not my sister, my cousins, help me. I agreed to let them drive the 4.5 hours to where I was and relocate me. Now, I did do the people I was with dirty. I didn't tell them anything. By this time, they were all whatever because of my dad dying. They weren't talking to me much, and they were all starting to form their own opinions and this and that. And so I was already like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I'm already on probation. I can't interact with nobody. I can't mingle with people when they go out to do, indulge themselves. I can't do nothing. I don't know these people. These people aren't my friends. I'm only here because of the girl that I was associating with. I really didn't feel I felt bad that I couldn't explain to them. But at the same token, they wouldn't even give me the platform to explain my situation. Well, long story short, fellas, in the middle of an afternoon, my cousin showed up. And when she did text me and said she was probably 2 blocks away, I did tell the man and the wife of the home that, hey, I am leaving. I'm not coming back. I'm I have to do what's best for me. The probation or police aren't going to bother you. They know I'm leaving. That was it. I was gone. That afternoon, I was gone. It was probably a week or so, maybe 2 weeks that I'd been up there with my family. That we did to get the final phone call. My dad passed away in his sleep. And, my cousin drove me to the place I was born, to the church, to do the hardest thing I'd ever done. Everybody left my dad to die. Nobody wanted to bury him. His ex-wife, his daughter. Nope, I was told by my family to my dad. I wouldn't do it. And my dad did all the whatever to me. He didn't do any of this stuff to them. They all wanted him off, and I wouldn't do it. Being the eldest sibling, I had the power. But my parents were divorced at that time. They divorced after my sister and I were adults. I wouldn't do it. My sister had no anything because she wasn't the oldest sibling. She wasn't the oldest child or the next in line as far as succession of our family. I wouldn't do it. And when I wouldn't do what I wouldn't do, my mom and sister, that was it. They were all out to get rid of me. But I wouldn't do anything, man. So, I'd go to this thing, say my farewells to my dad. And that's pretty much that chapter, fellas. Yep. That's crazy. And the stupidest thing I did was leave where I was, because what happened next, fellas, is insane. And I still somehow was guilty in it. I had full legal written permission to relocate and do what I did. But apparently it didn't make no difference. Paperwork didn't get exchanged to anybody. Because, fellas, even after the years of my order was over, these mother effers had issued a warrant for me. And I didn't even know this. This warrant was active for years. My probation officer had quit that entire department and everything, and all his cases and stuff were transferred. And I was unaware of this, and this is just the prologue to the next chapter. Things were only beginning to get worse for me, man. My dad dying was the least of my worries, and I didn't know it. I was going on the next however many years, fellas, like I was everything hunky-dory. I remember I would always count down, well, I got this many years left. I got one more year left of paperwork. I got 6 months of probation left. My probation was done, gone, and everything, and I'm like just living life like whatever, paying my support. I mean, literally, I had a job. My stuff was taken out of my check every week, and this has been going on for years. And so I had got in trouble for child support, did whatever, and then I had fixed my own health and my life, was living on and was working, and had been paying again for years. And then, fellas, the most craziest, insane thing, I was literally a block or two from where I was staying, going home, going to eat. Somebody had OD'd by the overpass or the bridge or whatever it was, bike trail that I have to pass to go home to, where I live, so I could go eat. And here come all these fire departments, fucking rent-a-cops and what have-nots. Because of this person, somebody called them because the dude's passed out or dead on these rocks. And I didn't know what was going on. And it was a paramedic. I ain't never seen a paramedic carrying a weapon or whatever. This paramedic had something, pulls it right on me. Put your hands in the air, get on the ground, everything. Because they somehow lumped me into these individuals that were over here when all I'm doing is walking home. And I mean, I'm not in custody or whatever, but fellas, you understand what I'm about to tell you. Second he pulls the ID and does what he does, man, it's over for me. And that's going to be the next chapter. The criminal system. The criminal system, guys. It's only getting worse. Only getting worse. I hate thinking about this, man. I hate thinking about this. But this is where the prison comes in. This is where prison comes. This is where all the poking, the prodding, the examinations, the everything. This is where you find out that nobody cares about your conditions, your living, what you can and can't do. This is it. This is it. This is how I found out about everything about you lose your right to fishing, hunting, titles to vehicles, applications for education, housing. This is where I find everything. This is how I know all the scammers, the manipulators, and everything in between on all these platforms. This is it. This is serious. This is real stuff, man. Like, there is no papers, no chances of OR bonds or anything this time. It's over. Like, you're a marked man. It's every time you think it can't get any worse, it does. You guys don't want this. They don't want any of this stuff, man. I apologize for this running as long as it did, y'all. I do apologize. Don't be looking at that stupid timer, and I just get into what I get. And I don't sit here and do whatever. I just go off script, man. I don't believe in faking something or whatever. So I apologize, gentlemen. But, this real life, this real stuff, guys. Stick to your guns, stick to your principles, your faiths. And listen to each other, guys. Look out for each other, man. Because you don't know what the other man's going through. You don't know. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, gentlemen. This has been Reviving Real News.